Let's do a drawing from imagination, from the lessons learned from the recently dropped course of Jackie Juico. As you can tell, I haven't gone till the end. I have a long way ahead. But at this early stage, I want to summarize everything I did so I can remember it. Because even if it's an early stage, it's already a lot. By the way, hi, I am Awiko. I went to study visual arts in Paris. Unfortunately, in university, otherwise known as La Fac in French, you don't learn to draw. For that purpose, you should go to an applied arts school, like the Gobelins, for example. Fortunately, in university, they do teach you how to think critically, although that is not enough to make drawing. What will be needed is to draw. So let's draw. First, very spontaneously, I am doing a quick sketch. I am having one thing in mind. I am doing the half part of the body that is farther away from us smaller because of the principle of diminution in perspective. The more something is farther away from you, the smaller it will look. For this character, the part that is farther away is the right arm and the left leg, the right half of the body. This is why I am doing that part of the body smaller. But how much smaller? I am eyeballing it. To guide me, I am making perspective lines. I am imagining that my character is in a doll box. That box has perspective lines, and those perspective lines are vanishing or directing towards 2 points that are in a line. That line is the horizon line. And the horizon line is basically the height of our eyes, how high our eyes are. This high at floor level, or kind of in the middle, or more towards the ceiling or the sky. Here, our point of view is pretty high. The perspective lines are directing towards that line that is up above. All the elements in the scene will have perspective lines that will vanish towards this horizon line. All the elements. Each element is going to have its different points, but the points are going to be in the horizon line. Secondly, and very rapidly, I am blocking the silhouette with one color to see if it's interesting. And for me, it is good enough. We should be careful not to put too much pressure on ourselves, especially when we are learning. Otherwise, we would leave it all behind more easily. What is important is that at least by looking at this silhouette, I can have a rough idea that it is a body and it is in a somewhat active position. Then, carefully, I am starting to polish the sketch, making it less rough with a thinner brush. Immediately after, very rapidly, I am locating the shape sizes to have an overall panorama of which shapes are big, medium, and which shapes are small. This is something I don't often think about, but it is really important for balance and composition. I am looking closely, and I think the perspective of the right arm is too exaggerated. What I mean is that it is too big. Since it is the arm that is the farthest from us, it should be smaller. And the left leg is too separated from the body. These are not necessarily mistakes. They could be stylistic choices, but for me, they don't look that appealing. So let's change that. I am refining now the drawing. I had the idea to put the thicker lines in one layer and the thinner lines in another layer, just so I can remember to do both thicker and thinner lines, to have more variety for the eyes to see, to give an idea of what is more delicate than the rest, because not everything in the drawing has the same amount of delicacy. I haven't thought about this before. I'm having the idea to make a path on the floor following the perspective line of our character. Remember where our point of view is? It's up high, so the perspective lines are directing towards this high point. One point, one vanishing point, is outside the frame. The other point is inside the frame. And if we draw a path that is heading towards that point, it can make one feel the space. Let's work with colors now. Color palette universe is a new field for me. I haven't explored enough this field, but I am learning. First, let's block each element with its local color. A local color means the color something has with a neutral lining. So a lining that is not too cold nor too warm. I am blocking the skin color, the hair color, the t-shirt, the pants color, and the light which is kind of a magical torch. It's time for placing the shadow. I'm placing more saturated and darker colors for the shadows, but honestly, I don't really know what I'm doing. And look, I even placed some green undertones or green highlights in the hair, but at this point my head is a little bit too overwhelmed, and I think it's time to do a sum up of all the steps up until this point. Now, the next step would be choosing the colors to show how the light source, that is a warm light, impacts the local colors that we just blocked. But for now, the challenge is, before going a step further, to repeat all these steps from start to this point so we can pursue with more assurance to the next step next time. For the next drawings, we're going to use more traditional materials, paper and watercolor, color pencils, and we are going to draw from references. At least start from them. Grab elements that we can use for our drawing. Whether you draw or not, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do draw, there are some courses I did and I advise in the description. Take care of you, have a nice week, and see you!